Hello my friends, Simon from WhatCulture here, and yes, it's another one of these weird hotel ups and downs because of course, it is Sunday the 27th of August, maybe 2023. Wembley Arena is literally right there. So I am getting ready for Allin. I cannot quite believe we're about to get to a wrestling show in the UK with over 80,000 people. What am I looking at? There is sad news to start this week's episode of AEW Collision Ups and Downs, because there was no 1980s promos before the thing began. I know, I get it. People were traveling around the place and the commentator team were different. Doesn't mean I'm not a sad panda. I mean, look at me. Thankfully, though, we did bring balance to the force, because while we didn't have these awesome interviews, Jack Perry came out and he decided we need some good old-fashioned sports entertainment. Because not only did he come out with a bunch of pallbearers, but he was basically treating the FTW title like he was about to bury it and give it a funeral. Now, one, that is not a normal thing to do, and two, it is an inanimate object. It doesn't have any feelings. It was super duper weird as well, because of course Perry comes out to Beethoven music, so I was like, man, I don't know what is going on. And then he was like, isn't it a shame that we have to do this? But let's face it, in 100 years, when people think about the FTW Championship, they'll also think of me and my legacy. I'm pretty sure he's only defended this title once. As far as I'm concerned, this new character rocks. He also cut to this video, which was him basically having like a relationship with the FTW title, and they were eating and they were skipping through fields. I was like, man, do I love goofy wrestling for life? Especially when we cut back to Jack, he was like, well, look, now we do have to send it away, but don't worry, I know how to do this. And he produced a sledgehammer, and he was gonna smash the shit out of it. Once again, this ain't normal behavior. We also then got my favorite spot in wrestling because the lights went out when we cut to the big screen, and there was Hook, and he was all like, man, I love the FTW title, it's part of my bloodline, and it's part of my body. And he was also doing pull-ups on some traffic lights. And as you know, if you do pull-ups on some traffic lights with your top off, you are the most badass person in the world. He was magically doing this as well, because then the lights came back on, and of course, ta-da! Hook was behind Jack Perry, and he just whipped his ass. I mean, not only did he suplex him around the place, he also threw Jackie Boy through the table that was there for the funeral. I just want to tell you this, don't do this as an actual funeral, everybody will hate you. He then grabbed the microphone and just said Wembley Sunday, which tickled me, because if you'd never watched wrestling before, you'd be like, what the flub is he on about? But of course we are nerds, which means later on, today, I shall be there. We are getting Hook versus Jack Perry for the FTW Championship, and I am more than fine with this, because I like to look at the human side of professional wrestling. These are still two young chaps in this game of professional wrestling, and now they get to do this in front of 80,000 people. I just think it's tremendous. I just think it's faboo. Plus, we should do the title switch, because everybody will cheer, because everybody loves Hook. Giving it up. There was then this great video for the MJF Adam Cole that is going to be the main event of the pay-per-view, and we have done such a good job with this because I'm mega pumped when we got into the maddest six-man tag ever. Because it was Orange Cassidy, Penta, and Eddie Kingston, and what a team that is, taking on Kip Sabian, the Butcher, and the Blade. And I thought about it and I was like, yeah, this is something I want to see. We basically got into brawl territory instantly too, because somebody accidentally played the tag klaxon. And this Penta decided, well, you got the Butcher and you've got the Blade. I know how to deal with them. And he took the Blade and he DVD'd him into Butcher. I was like, Penta, what'd you do that for? Now you ain't going to get a discount at their shop. Now he did forget about Kip Sabian here, who then took Penta's legs and drived his penis into reach of the ring post, which sounds terrible. When Orange Cassidy was like, what am I, a piece of fruit? He did a big old dive. It meant for a little while too, Kip and Orange were going at it again, and they have history. When the Butcher and the Blade must have taken an HP potion, because they returned, and honestly, they are such beasts. I mean, they need Orange in the back as Sabian gave him a cannonball. Kind of confused me. I was like, why didn't he explode? He is just an orange. He finally got the tag to Penta, who got a great reaction. But Eddie Kingston was getting madder and madder. He was like, look, I only did a little thing at the start of the match. I want to get in there. So Penta touched his hand, Eddie got in, and honestly, he went crazy too, which was doubly mad because he was facing the Butcher. They just basically ran at each other until Eddie did get him down. When the tag klaxon sounded for a second time, everybody was just having a big old fight. At this stage, I wasn't even watching the match. Trying to figure out who kept doing the tag klaxon. Orange was then ready to go again by drinking his own juice. I don't even know what that means, but he was getting in some blows when Kingston took his arm and he gave Kip Sabian a lariat of death and he just pinned him. And honestly, I haven't done this justice because it was just go, 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 move, move, move. Fans are losing their minds, and I'm giving it up. The best friends were also here after this to talk about the Blackpool Combat Club, and man, they were super pissed off because, of course, they did the worst thing you can possibly do, and they disrespected Sue, Trent's mum. Some people love to complain about this. It is the most obvious and easy story to follow in all of professional wrestling. If somebody mugged off your mum, you'd want to beat him up. Or aren't they going to say something too when the Blackpool Combat Club appeared on the screen? And of course they were like, we've got Santana and Ortiz now. And I'm pretty sure Santana turned to his wrestling promo book and he found promo 142 because he essentially said, I was out injured for a long time and I have figured out who my friends are. So I guess he was waiting by the phone making a list. Howdy then took a shot at Kingston saying, listen man, the only reason you're so mad is because you blame everybody else for your own problems. During all this, Elliot decided, I ain't standing in the ring anymore. He just stormed off to find them. It's hilarious. He was great too because when he got backstage, the BCC had run off. So he was like, cameraman, you must have seen them. You were filming him. When he said, listen, Santana and Ortiz, I understand what you've done, but I still have to gut you. So bring it down. There is the crime counter. You cannot tell people you're going to get them unless they're like a fish. He also said that he was going to bury Wheeler Yuta before burning and scarring Claudio Castagnoli for life. So in around about 47 seconds, Eddie Kingston had popped the crown counter about 4 times. We also have to bring in the Does Eddie Know It's a Work machine as well, and of course it says no, because this man is just the absolute best. You give him a microphone and you allow him to talk and you can just go, I believe in professional wrestling, because everything he says, he delivers with such passion. I'm going to keep saying this till it does happen. Before the end of 2024, he should be the AEW World Champion. We then had more videos this time for FTR versus the Young Bucks, which also is happening at AEW All-In for the tag team titles. And do not forget, these guys have raised the bar so high that if they don't have the best tag team match ever, some people will go, well, what a disappointment. But if you're asking me for my opinion, which you're probably not, I actually think they're going to do it. When I peered out into the crowd, and what did I see? It was a Simon Give Me an Up sign. And as always, it made me feel warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum. So especially on a day like today, when we're about to have all the fun in the world, I just want to say this. Thank you very much for always supporting me. Thank you so much for always being passionate about this stupid show where I wiggle my finger around. You have allowed me to have some badass opportunities, and I appreciate you greatly. Give it up. Well, we just got the most random match, because it was Alex Reynolds and John Silver of the Dark Order taking on Axel Andretti and Darius Mayan. And this very much did feel like an ROH contest because those guys have been down there. But here's the thing. If we are using Ring of Honor to make sure people keep up their momentum, then surely eventually they need to be on a Dynamite or a Collision, especially these 4, because in the past they've been on Wednesday nights and they've killed it. Andretti and Martin too have become such a good team over the last few months, so when Dante is back, I think they should become a trios, and maybe even go after the trios titles. Certainly for them though, they didn't see that John Silver had been tagged in, so he gave them a powerbomb onto Alex Reynolds' knees. I've been thinking about this all morning. Like, I don't think that's a thing. It did heat up Andretti's hand though, so he decided to use his temperature to give the hot tag to Darius, who went absolutely crazy, and he hit this neckbreaker DDT combo thingamajig, so quite clearly if we take the evidence, he doesn't like necks. He also then tagged Action back instantly. This always makes me laugh. I'm like, what are you doing? Unless you somehow slipped him a Phoenix down and we didn't see, he was almost dead 10 seconds ago, give him a minute. They then did this dropkick German suplex double team, which was absolutely awesome. And when they hit the 450, I actually thought they were gonna win. They didn't. Dark Order broke it up at 2. I think Johnny Hungy was then a little bit mad because he was like, wait a minute, we're the combo kings and we've barely done any of them, although they had done a few. So they went into all their Mortal Kombat strikes and everything else they do. And eventually they took these 2 dudes down and they got the 1, 2, 3. Now, I don't know why this did happen. I don't know where it's going, but hopefully we do more with all of them on the quote unquote big shows. I don't know what we want to call them. I don't know, because I don't write these things. Giving it up. Well, we carried on everything between Darby, Allin, AR, Fox, and Nick Wayne. Interesting. Now, look, as we talked about on Dynamite Ups and Downs, I do think it's crazy that AR Fox is already out of the group, but at least here we had some story. Because he was like, look, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done it. I just went into a panic. And look, I too have lost my father, so I understand where you're coming from. And Nick Wayne looked at him like, are you kidding me, bro? And he walked off. Good. It makes sense. I'm also a little bit worried because, again, AR did just admit that his father isn't around anymore. You just know that Christian Cage's ears picked up and he's like, man, I need a microphone. Now, Allin did kind of act like their friendship runs so deep he'll be fine with this. I think we need to carry this on, because I can only presume we did make a shift because something has happened that we don't know about, so I don't want to be that guy. But while it is a shame, at least we are retroactively fitting it so it kind of works. I am intrigued to see what happens next week. Giving it up. I do want to say that Darby Allin is way too forgiving as a human being. Man, I wouldn't want to be his buddy, because who knows what he'd get away with. When we cut to the Acclaimed, who was doing a diss track on the House of Black, I'm just going to give you some of the lines. Blowing up that House of Black like Oppenheimer. Clap on, clap off for your entrances. You send the fans to sleep with your sentences. Adi, you're just a ginger in face paint. Walk into a ring like a seance. Couldn't draw money with a box of green crayons. He rhymed it a lot better than that, but yep, look, they're the best. I love things like this. It breaks up the show and it's just so damn entertaining. Plus, it made me want to see that match. We then had one more video for the women's four-way, which is happening later for the AEW Women's Championship, when it was time for Big Bill versus Barry Morales. Now, Ricky Starks is the manager of Big Bill at the moment, which I still think is an amazing pairing. And basically, Billy Boy grabbed this poor man, he threw him around for a bit, he hit a choke slam, and he won around about 3 seconds. Ricky then grabbed the mic afterwards and said that Morales reminded him of a young Ricky Steamboat, and no, he was not being complimentary, when he started to just whip him with the belt again. Then he was all like, man, I'm going to have an even bigger strap next week. I was like, what does that mean? He then kept doing this until the officials stopped him. And I don't know whoever decided to turn Ricky Starks back into the old Ricky Starks, but this is the Ricky Starks that he always needs to be. In around about 3 weeks, he has become one of the best characters on AEW, and he's clearly going to do something at All Out, because that's when his suspension ends. And surely Ricky Steamboat has to be involved, and it's going to be in Chicago. So this has just been an absolute home run, and teaming him up with Big Bill, so he's got a big old man to go, rah, don't you come near this fool. It is absolutely getting it up. We then got the obvious as Ruby Soho was doing a promo, and she was like, let me make it very clear to everybody, I want to challenge Chris Statlander for the TBS title at All Out. And look, this can't happen. We are human beings. I have two emotions. And my first is you damn right, because it's two great characters that will have a damn great match, and it's for a championship that I think people do care about. Number two is that I'm a little disappointed, because this has just been born out of the fact that Ruby did an inset promo on Dynamite and said, well, I would like to be a champion. Now, all of a sudden, 2 days later, we're just getting it. It's even more confusing because we had all that stuff on Collision with Willow, Nightingale, and Chris Statlander and Diamante, Mercedes Martinez. I'm not saying you can't cross the streams here. I'm not even saying that I mind this. Sometimes you just want a little bit more story. And if we had just given it a few more weeks so they could have had proper beef, I just think it would have been a little bit better. So it is getting it down. Mine are down. Don't have to go crazy. That's just how I feel. I was really happy right after this though, because it was Willow versus Robyn Renegade. These are two of my favorites. I'm sure you know about Nightingale, because of course she's been smashing it for ages now, but you also need to keep an eye on the Renegades, because Sister Charlotte was also on the outside, and they just have a very good act. They've also been doing very good things on Dark or Ring of Honor for ages, although it didn't go well for Rob at the start of here, because Willow just whammed her with a back elbow and gave her a fisherman suplex. I was like, well, hopefully she likes haddock. She also went to chat to her sister at one stage, because I bet she was like, well, what do I do now? I'm in trouble. When Willow went out of there, and she just booted her in the face. I was like, why not? She also went to smash Robyn, but of course this has served as a distraction. So she swept the leg like she was in damn Karate Kid, but this Willow Nightingale, she fought back, she hit that big old spine buster, and her face just lights up like sunshine. I mean, she is very entertaining to watch. She totally missed the cannonball though, which allowed Robyn to boot her out of the ring, and this is when the Renegades were like, we're gonna use system power. It did not work at all, because Willow stopped them and she gave both of them a suplex on the floor. Now, I know wrestlers have done much crazier things in 2023, but do not forget, that has got to suck. She then hit the Babe with the powerbomb to get the 1, 2, 3, which was always going to happen. And no, this wasn't the greatest match in the world, but I just love seeing people evolving and getting better in front of my eyes. And all of these three have all the potential in the world. Giving it up. We then had a video for Saraya doing all the media rounds on British TV, which is always funny because they say, do you know Big Daddy? Which is absolutely ridiculous. And we got some footage of Chris Jericho playing a Fozzy concert. And if you don't know, last night at the Rev Pro, who showed up in a mask to attack Will Ospreay? It was Christopher Jericho. I really do enjoy all these callbacks to the original All In. We also went video crazy here because we had a video package from Miro versus Powerhouse Hobbs, the ultimate in big men slapping man meat, which is happening at All Out, when Chris Statlander was like, yes, I will fight you, Ruby Soho. And again, I'm looking forward to it, but we talked about it. When Zicky Dice was on Collision. All right. Because I was lucky enough to wrestle Zicky over WrestleMania weekend. and somebody may have gotten off a plane super jet-lagged and decided, I don't know sleep, and I've been offered 3 matches in one day, why don't I do all of them? And then he got to the 3rd match where he was taking on Mr. Dice, and maybe he was a little bit broken. So, as I do have this little platform, I just want to say, Zicky, I'm very, very sorry. He was a super pro though, and very sadly, it did not go well from him here, because he was taking on Keith Lee, who ran through him like a train, and he gave him the bomb of power, and he beat him. Once again, I have no idea why this was on the show. Who doesn't want to see Keith Lee kick ass? Also, Zicky Dice up. But that said though, I do have to throw one down in there, because there were so many random matches as we talked about on this episode of Collision, and up to this point in terms of week-to-week stories, well, they've been doing a very good job. Now look, it is great because I get to see people like Zicky Dice and the Dark Order and the Renegades, and I want them to do well, but there's the other side of the coin, because once again, you could have different feelings in your tum-tum. That's just how the world works. So there's your down. Thankfully, we did get an update on Drolistico and Preston Vance after this, because last week, Rush had kidnapped him. Now, as it turns out, Rush has gone crazy, because these two were in some kind of building, and they were getting the shit kicked out of them. They also had bags over their heads, so it was meant to be a bit like, man, I don't think this is on the up and up. And Roosh was here too. He was loving this. He thought the brutality was the greatest thing that he's ever seen in his life. So we have to bring down the crime counter, and now we've got Roosh on like multiple instances because he's done kidnapping. Now he's done assault. By the end of the story, could get up to like 92. And speaking about angry people, here came Samoa Joe. He had been told by AEW management that if he does interfere in tonight's Collision main event, that maybe his match with CM Punk at Wembley will be in jeopardy. He was just so damn upset by all of this, especially because last week, Punk had dressed up like a goober and he jumped him. What a coward. So he has decided instead to watch this from the commentary booth. Do you remember those few months when people were like, man, Samoa Joe is so done? If those words came out of your mouth, I'm happy to say you crazy. It also did lead to this match, and you ain't gonna believe it. It was CM Punk, Hook, Sting, and Darby Allin taking on Brian Cage, Swerve Strickland, Jay White, and Luchasaurus. I mean, that's mad. Christian Cage and Prince Nana were also on the outside, so this was chaos, but we did start with Swerve Strickland taking on CM Punk. So it happened again. That's another feud I need. As CM Punk has been doing recently too, he instantly went for the GTS, which is when Swerve tagged out, and he touched hands with Jay White. We've already talked about this. CM Punk versus Jay White. That's another one. Hook soon got in there and he just spanked White as Darby also started working over the arm. And after CM Punk had got a few shots in there, badness came to down because we tagged in the dinosaur. Ruh-roh. Even better than this though, is that Sting received a hand slap on the other side of the ring. So we had the Stinger versus a T-Rex. And even though Sting is 63 years old, he whooped this dino's ass. Wonderful. Christian and Prince Nana were then casting distractions on the outside to help out, but I was a bit like, look, he does deserve this. Millions and millions of years ago, he lost all his friends and family. He's looking for some love. It then went back to White and Punk, and I'm just going to remind you once again that I love their chemistry together. When Swerve got in there, he throws some bones, but then Hook tagged in, and my word, he grabbed Strickland, and he threw him around like he was a child. Don't forget, Hook only been doing this like, I don't know what, 1 year? And he already totally knows who he is. Jay then, being the ass that he is, smacked the wonderfully haired warrior, which is when Swerve threw him to the outside, and Christian grabbed him, and threw him into Barry Barricade. So that is 100 assaults on Barry Barricade. There it is, 100, which means Barry is now officially dead, and next week here on Ups and Downs, we shall do the funeral of Barry Barricade. What a day for it to happen too, and of course it was Christian, of course it was. Because we all know that Barry had a father. His name was Gary the Guardrail. We haven't seen him for many years. Very sadly, it makes sense. The good guys then fought back with vigor until Punk hit the big elbow off the top rope when he was going for the GTS again, when the tag klaxon went off, and I was like, man, who keeps doing it? It ended when Brian Cage got in there and he was about to go power 9,000, but instead he got smashed with the go to sleep, which is when CM Punk remembered, oh yeah, a wrestler I don't like is sitting on that commentary booth, so I'm going to look at him a little bit. And Samoa Joe was like, oh, I don't like you either. So he looked at CM Punk, which is when the Punkster locked in the Coquina clutch. As we know, in sports entertainment, if you steal somebody else's move, it's the most insulting thing ever. Of course, Brian had to tap out here because otherwise he was going to die, which when Samoa Joe on commentary went, so that's the match officially ended. And he got in the ring, he just destroyed Punk. Joe is the best. Darby was also going after Luchasaurus for obvious reasons when Jack Perry just walked out and he started to have a fight with Hook. they brawled off into the crowd. They had a bunch of weapons being involved too, because why wouldn't you, including Joe getting the championship and smashing CM Punk in the head as he walked away saying, I will see you at Wembley where I become the real world's champion. Now that's not going to happen, but if it did, I wouldn't be upset about it. So this was a super fun match, and the ending set up all of these feuds, which we do need to be hot over the next 7 days. So actually, I thought it was a really good bit of business, giving it an up. Which brought us to the end of AEW Collision, and look, it was a fun show, a weird show, and a random show, but we have talked about all of it, but given the nature of the occasion, just so damn pumped up, there's that word, give it a UP. Now, of course, please do leave a comment below, subscribe, and do all that YouTube stuff, and click the video that shall be on the screen. Go to WhatCulture.com, follow us on social media. But my big takeaway message, if you are watching this on day one, on that Sunday, is if you're watching All In, enjoy it. If you're going to All In, enjoy it. It's not every day you get to go to a wrestling event with over 80,000 people. I think this is going to be pretty damn special. Enjoy yourself, my friends. Thank you from me. See you soon.